Hi there, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name's Richard, and in this video I'm going to introduce you to control wheel steering, which is a function of the Autopilot, and it's a great tool, especially when you're flying VFR and you want to get around and fly around a little bit. So um, first off, I'll demonstrate how to get into control wheel steering. Button number 8 on my yoke, and you can see in previous videos how I arrange my buttons on my yoke. So button number 8 on my yoke engages control wheel steering. If you look at the AP setting here, if I press the button, it says CWS, control wheel steering. If I let it go, it's back off. So that's how you turn it on and off. If you put it in control wheel steering, and you don't turn off heading hold, it'll just take you back to the heading you were on. So the first thing you want to do is I'm going to change the mode of HDG to ROL, the roll mode. And the other thing you can do is you can leave the altitude being at 2,000 feet, and the altitude will positively hold that while you do your turn. Now, in doing turns, I find it much easier to do it with the HUD. I've talked about the HUD before, but in case you forgot or didn't see it, note that there's a circle right here that says I'm straight and level and 0 vertical velocity and at 154 miles per hour. Okay, so I'm going to, remember now I've got roll mode on, and altitude is being held at 2,000 feet. So I'm going to engage the control wheel steering, start a turn. Okay, and I'm just going to turn about 90 degrees. So that's 10 degrees, 20 degrees, whoops, 30 degrees. I'm going to set the bank angle to 30 degrees and let go. Okay, so I've let go of the control wheel steering function. So the button is released, and it's just going to keep turning around and around until I decide to say it's supposed to stop. So there goes, here's coming up on north, and 3.5, and 3.4, and 3.3. I'm going to stop at 3.1, 3.2, rolling out on 3.1. Okay, there we go. Now it's not exactly on 3.1, but that's okay. The heading is 310. We're heading sort of back to the airport, sorta, I guess. But that's not where we're here right now. Okay, so just practice holding and making a turn, and the turn I like to do is 30 degrees of bank, okay, because you can't get 30 degrees of bank just using the heading hold. So the altitude is being held. I'm going to turn back 360 degrees back to 3.1. Okay. So now we're turning east. You can look at the bottom, see where we're at. Compass rose at the bottom, 11, 12, and 13, and 14. I'll tell you what, I'll stop at 180 here. There's 17. Stop at 180. Okay. So now, let me push the nose back down a little bit. Okay, it'll hold it right there. Airspeed is a little low. I'm going to go back inside a minute, okay, and show you a couple other things here. So my airspeed is down a little bit. I'm going to push the throttle back up to 60. I want to hold about 150. Okay. Now, note that when I let go, it decided to hold 2,060 feet. So it's holding wherever I let it go. Okay. Now the next nice thing about this is I'm going to change the altitude uh, hold button to vertical speed hold. So I'm going to hit vertical speed hold, okay, and I'm going to push the vertical speed up. I mean the altitude bug up to 2,500 feet. So now I'm going to start. Go back out to the HUD. Okay. I'm going to start a turn, and I'm going to raise the nose up a little bit. Okay. And what that's going to do is I'm going to turn at 30 degrees of bank, and you notice the vertical speed is climbing up about 500 feet a minute. Airspeed is dropping a little bit, so I'll touch a power in some. And when the altitude bug, you can see the altitude bug coming down right here. When that altitude bug gets to 2,500 feet, I will level off. Don't know when that's going to be, but it's getting there soon. Okay, we're at 2320, and just a nice gentle climb with a 30-degree bank turn. And 23, 24, gonna level off soon here. Okay, there goes the vertical speed going back to 0, and we're now locked on to 2,500 feet. Oh, look at the runway down there. I think I know what runway that is. I'll tell you what, we're going to turn the other way. Now that we're leveled off, I'm going to try and turn back to the airport. Okay, airport's probably around 27280 here. So I'm going to turn, keep turning, keep turning. I'm at 40 degrees of bank as long as I hold it in. If I let go, it'll come back to 30 and hold that. 30 degrees of bank. So you can go more than 30, but if you let go of the button, it's going to come back to 30. Okay. So I'm going to turn to about, I'll go 2300 here. Okay. Halfway between. That's close enough. Okay. Now, I want to go back. Oops, not there. I want to go back to Greenville-Spartanburg. So it's at 310. So I was close. So at 310, let's look out here again. So the runway is 11 miles out on a heading of 310. Okay, I can actually do this and use control wheel steering in here and change that 306 over to about 310. Okay, maybe 311 now. So you can see I'm changing a small amount, and then if I let go of it, it's still holding the 5 degrees of bank. One of the things about control wheel steering is it does it in increments of 5 degrees of bank. And so if you're at 5 degrees or more, between 5 and 10, it'll hold 5 degrees. You're up to 10, it'll hold 10. So now we're 8 miles out, and we're at 2,500 feet, and the airspeed is up higher than I want. I'm going to pull it back down to about 60% now that we finished that climb. And so right out here, you'll see the, let's go back to here. So you can see we're 7.4 miles from the runway, according to the GPS. Airspeed, why is airspeed increasing? I don't know. Why are you increasing? There it comes back down. All right. All right, so airspeed is now decreasing back toward 150 to 60. So I look out at the HUD here. One of my favorite approaches to an airport is to do a left downwind. So I'm going to put on the control wheel steering, turn a few degrees, fly over the center of the runway. So that's close enough. Okay. And there we go. Airspeed still 160. I'm going to pull the power back a little bit more. So what this is good for is doing a visual approach. Very often you do a visual approach by crossing midfield to the airport, letting know tower, here you come, you get a tower clearance and all that, and he can see you as he flies overhead. So I'm at 2,500 feet above the normal pattern altitude. And so now my airspeed is below 150 and I can lower my gear. Now, because this is my home airport, I know all kinds of visual references. And so as soon as I cross the runway, actually I can do it right now. I'm going to put the gear down now. Okay, put the gear down, push the power up a little bit to hold minimum of 140. Okay, there you go, gear's down. And we'll go back to the HUD. Okay, so as we cross the runway, the gear is down. Okay, and gear is down, and we're crossing the runway, 2,500 feet. I'm going to let it go for a little bit longer, and then I'm going to turn downwind. And here we go. Turning downwind means turning for a runway 04 approach, turning to a heading of 220. Now I'm not going to descend any. I'm just showing you the theoretical here of how you would do an approach. There's 24, 23, 220. Okay. So because I know the landmarks around Greenville-Spartanburg, which is my home airport, I'm going to pull the power back just a little bit because I don't want to get over 150. Right out here is the Donaldson Center Airport. If I look behind me here, there goes the runway. Now, you can see that runway is a little tight, so I'm going to go over here to 230 and get away from the runway a little bit so I can do a 180 turn. And this is where the control wheel steering really proves itself. At 140, you need to come back. Let's go look at the runway again. There's the end of the runway fading away. Now, my visual clue for when to turn is a small lake just off the end of that runway out there. So I'm far enough away from that I can parallel the runway again back to 22. And let that go. Okay. Now, if I look inside again, notice that the altitude hold is holding me. And so I'm not going to try to descend and fly an approach. However, when you see that lake coming up here in Greenville, that means it's time to turn. I'll let it get a little closer. Airspeed's 130, slightly low. Going to touch the power in slightly to hold 140. 135 to 140. Okay. In the turn, you might lose a few knots, so I want to get it up there a little bit. Okay. So now I'm going to turn with the control wheel steering. I'm going to put in 30 degrees of bank and let go of the button. Here we go. 30 degrees of bank. Try to keep that circle right on that line so I don't go up or down any. Okay, there is 30 degrees of bank and let go of the button. Okay, so you can see I'm at 30 degrees of bank right there. This is in the center. My vertical speed is 0. And now we're just watching for 040 right down here at the bottom. Or we see the runway, whichever occurs first. Okay, so there's east coming up now. And there's 060. There's a runway. How about that? Right on cue. I'm going to roll out on 040. Head right toward the runway. Okay. So that's what control wheel steering's about. Control wheel steering doesn't work well when you're on short final, but 2 or 3 miles, 4 miles out like this, it works really good. Um, uh, when you're flying an approach visually using the VASI lights or whatever, just just fly it. You don't need the autopilot when you're approaching the runway. It gets in the way. Okay, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more videos.